help us to be kingdom representatives in a world that seems to be spinning out of control. And help us to keep our eyes on Jesus. Help us to not lose sight of the promises that you've made, that you are coming back. And as that time of your return gets closer, the enemy will be fighting harder. So help us, Lord, to be grounded in the truth, holding firmly to your hand and boldly proclaiming that Jesus Christ is King of Kings and Lord of Lords, to the glory of God the Father. As we look at this amazing story this morning, may we be reminded of the Jesus that we serve, the Jesus that we love. And if there's someone in here today that doesn't know that Jesus, may they come to know him this morning. In your name we pray. Amen. Power is one of those things that captures our attention, you know? There are certain things that are powerful, that just grab us. Like if we see the results, the aftermath of what a hurricane, like a Category 4 hurricane does when it goes through an area, and we see the devastation, and we see the power that a storm can have, that just really, that says something to it, captures us. Or sometimes we'll see pictures beamed from space, from the Hubble telescope, of these planets far, far away, and galaxies far, far away, and we're just captured by the power of the magnification of something like the Hubble telescope. Or we'll see pictures or video of Kilauea blowing up on the Big Island and molten lava being shot hundreds of feet up into the air, and the power that's being spewed from the earth, along with the beauty. It just kind of captures us. There's something about power that intrigues us, right? Whether it's heavy equipment that's moving multi-ton boulders, or maybe a giant crane that's lifting these massive beams up to a skyscraper that's being built. Or maybe it's a V8 engine and a hot car that just grabs our attention, right? Power intrigues us. And big power seems to kind of intrigue us that much more. But there's another kind of power. There's a smaller power. It's not as big or bold. But it's powerful in that it can do things that we can't even imagine that it can do. I mean, think of something like a virus or a bacteria. You can't even see it with your human eye. But it's powerful enough that it can kill you, the right one, right? And so it may not be this amazing display or force of power, but something tiny that we don't even think about that's extremely powerful that can catch our attention. There's another power that's small, beautiful, and simple. It's the power of touch. Some of you might be familiar with some of the research that's been done on how powerful touch is, specifically with babies. The research shows, let me read this to you, that preterm newborns who receive just 3 15-minute sessions of touch therapy each day for 5 to 10 days gained 47% more weight than those who received standard medical care alone. Compassionate touch is a powerful tool that I think we've just begun to discover how important it really is, not just for our emotional health, not just for our relational health, but for our spiritual health too. And the passage that we're looking at this morning, the story that we're looking at this morning, is about Jesus and his touch. it zeroes in on an expression of compassion that Jesus has toward a guy he shouldn't have been touching. And yet, he did. And that's what we're going to zero in on today. So, let's jump right into it. Let's talk about the setting first. Just to kind of get us back into the mode of where we're at and what's happening, Jesus has been moving his way around the area called the Galilee. It's towns and villages wrapped around this lake, this massive lake called the Sea of Galilee, or the Lake of Gennesaret. It is a place where there's a lot of fishermen, there's a lot of tradesmen, and Jesus is making his way around these different villages, and he's preaching, and he's doing miracles. And the word is getting around. People are hearing about this. They didn't have things like the internet back then. They didn't have newspapers. They didn't have really much of anything as far as what we know as media. But they had word of mouth, and the word of mouth worked really good. We know what that's like here on Molokai. We call it the coconut wireless. Maybe back then, Israel, it was called the olive wireless. I don't know. But they had something similar, and the word was getting around, and people were hearing about this guy named Jesus. That Jesus spoke like nobody they'd ever heard. This guy speaks with authority. He's not like the guys that we normally hear in the synagogue that just kind of repeat what everybody else has said. Jesus stands up and he says, this is what God says, and this is what God means, and we've never heard a guy speak like that before. Then they started talking about the fact that Jesus, man, he is healing people. He speaks when they come with their sickness. He speaks and the disease goes. And everybody that comes to him sick leaves well. And not only that, we have seen him cast out demons. People that have come and they've been afflicted by these demons in such a horrific way. And Jesus just speaks the word and the demon flees and the person is made free. And you got to know that was big stuff. It would be big stuff today, let alone in that day. And the word is going around, and Jesus is getting more and more popular. And then, what we saw last week that Nohea shared with us, is that Jesus does this amazing miracle with fish. All these fish end up swimming into Simon's net. Literally a net-breaking fish experience. So many fish, they thought the boat was going to sink. And so again, there's people that are on shore. They've been hearing Jesus speak. They watch this whole thing go down. And so along with the stories about Jesus healing disease and casting out demons and speaking with power, now they've got this fish story on top of it, a real fish story about how Jesus made all these fish go into this net, and he's going, what we would say today, viral. Literally. Now, another part of the setting that we need before we step into the story is to understand that lepers, people with leprosy in those days, were considered vile. They were isolated and labeled. Now, when we read about leprosy in the Bible, it covers a variety of skin diseases, not just what we know as Hansen's disease. That was part of it. But there were other infectious skin diseases that would have been lumped into that category of leprosy. And all of them were dealt pretty much the same way. And we're familiar with the leprosy that we call Hansen's disease, and that's bad enough. But there were even other diseases that were considered diseases that you needed to stay away from. We don't want this to spread in society. And so there are 2 chapters in the law, in the book of Leviticus, that gives the people how to deal with the diseases. It goes as far as even telling how to diagnose whether a person had one of these diseases, what it would look like, how it would react, and if it turned out to be a legitimate skin infection falling under this category of leprosy, this is how you deal with it. It was a serious issue. And we read this in Leviticus 13. Those who suffer from a serious skin disease must tear their clothing, leave their hair uncombed, They must cover their mouth and call out, unclean, unclean. As long as the serious disease lasts, they will be ceremonially unclean. They must live in isolation in their place outside the camp. So let me explain to you what's going on here. If it was determined that the person indeed had one of these infectious diseases, they were supposed to wear their clothes a certain way.